Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Today's warehouse needs to keep inventory moving smoothly and quickly. Meet these challenges with on-demand warehouse labeling from Brother Mobile Solutions. Our mobile and industrial printers will help optimize your operations to achieve the speed, reliability, and durability your warehouse needs. With easy integration for existing warehouse technology, convenient portability, and upfront affordability, Brother Mobile Solutions is at your side when it comes to warehouse labeling. Try one for free today by visiting brothermobilesolutions.com/new warehouse or click the link in the show notes. That's brothermobilesolutions.com/new warehouse to try one for free today.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Gaurav Khandelwal, and he is the CEO and founder at Velostics. And we're going to talk all about Velostics, what was the idea behind it, what problem is it solving, and talking about some of the delayed disruption in the relationship between the shipper and the broker, and how that gets involved within the check-in, check-out processes around operations. And also dive into a little bit how they're utilizing AI within the solution, as we're always kind of trying to see where are those practical applications for AI and this cutting edge technology. So Gaurav, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing great. Weather's awesome in Houston. This is the best time of the year to be here, so I'm feeling pretty awesome.
Oh, that's great. You see, he's bragging because I'm in New Jersey and it's like 35 degrees this morning. We got our first frost last night. So fantastic for you over there. So tell us a little bit about Velostics, and I guess tell us too kind of the story behind it. You are the founder. So tell us kind of where did the idea come from, and how did the company kind of come to fruition?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Kevin, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm sure you have a lot of people that want to be on this podcast and very popular, so I appreciate the opportunity. So the story is in 2008, I founded a company, bootstrapped a company called Chai One.
Okay.
Like Chai One. And literally started the company the night Steve Jobs announced the App Store.
Interesting. Okay.
I quit my consulting job. Actually, I was in Jersey at the time. And started this company Chai One to build enterprise software, so enterprise apps for industrial workers. So warehouse workers, plant workers, field operators, et cetera, et cetera. And, over the last 15 years, we partnered with Apple and we built a ton of enterprise, apps for large Fortune 50 companies. Some of them are oil and gas, some of them are food services, cold storage, cold chain, e-commerce, nuclear power plants, you name it. So in those 15 years, we built a lot of custom logistics software, believe it or not.
Really?
And we saved these companies collectively probably easily over $100 million in savings in the type of software we were building. And these weren't like big software. This was like very point solutions, right, for these plants and warehouses. And so when 2020 happened, I kind of felt like, man, like we've been building this thing custom over and over again.
Right.
Where's the opportunity to build it once and sell to many?
Yeah. Right.
That you can keep it so simple. And so that's kind of where we found this space around scheduling. And we found that no matter which industry we looked at, every industry had lines of trucks outside.
Right.
A lot of driver fatigue, frustrations around detention, not enough, driving time. And when the ELD mandate, came out, then it kind of became even more so acute because now they couldn't fudge the logs, right? I mean, they really had to stop driving when it said that they needed to. So that's kind of where we found this opportunity around automating some of the manual scheduling work that happens at these plants and warehouses.
Interesting. And I think it's a very interesting problem to solve and attack, because, it is kind of that point of frustration on both sides. I mean, potentially from the receiver or the shipper side and the driver side too, where, like you said, the driver, they want to get in and out because, they want to make that money. And, but at the same time, if, you have a disruption in your operation and all of a sudden you fall behind for whatever reason, now, it creates this kind of contention point, I think, between the two. So being able to kind of streamline that better, I think is certainly a great thing to go after and attack that. I'm curious, we've seen, this process of scheduling, and oftentimes a very manual process in a sense for a long time. So, I mean, why has it kind of taken so long, or why did this kind of process or point within the overall supply chain kind of not really see much disruption kind of up until you guys come into the game?
Well, the thing is that the scheduling piece was often considered solved when you think about, dock scheduling or appointment scheduling. And so, I kind of look at, enterprise software like the old school Craigslist.
Okay.
If you ever use Craigslist has everything, right?
Yeah.
You could find baseball tickets, you could find a roommate, find cards, find a couch at somebody's house, right?
Yeah.
And each of those things became Airbnb and StubHub and all the different category killers, right? Like huge companies came out of Craigslist. Similarly, we kind of saw scheduling as one of those things that's embedded within a WMS or a YMS or a TMS type of solution out there. Those solutions had a primary purpose, right? And the scheduling just became a pain point feature, so that somebody just added.
Right.
I need to get an appointment. Let me just call the warehouse and they'll open up their software. They'll create an appointment for me. Oh, I can't make it. Well, let me call them again and they'll change the appointment for me. But it's like 20 clicks to create an appointment or change an appointment, right? That doesn't quite work in today's world. So what we found was that in our personal lives, I'm very inspired by what we do on a personal basis from a design perspective. How do we bring that to the industrial world, the B2B world?
Yeah, I think that's great.
In a personal world, we don't email a restaurant anymore to get an appointment, right? For a table. We just go to Open Table or one of those, online tools and you book a table, right? Well, why is it that in the trucking world, there's almost 1 billion shipments a year in the US every single year, 60% are scheduled completely manually.
Wow.
And it costs the industry $15 per appointment in terms of scheduling, rescheduling, in terms of manual labor cost, right? And so when we personally use things like Open Table, why do we resort back to emails and phone calls on the business side? That's kind of where, when we saw the opportunity, we said, look, the solution is kind of there, but nobody's kind of owned it. It's part of some other systems, and that's why it hasn't realized its full potential. So let's come in and just own that scheduling layer. Across the TMSs and WMSs and YMSs, we're not disrupting anybody. We're becoming a wedge in the middle.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's such a great point because, like you said, what do we do in our daily lives now where we really have to pick up the phone and schedule something? I mean, it's very rare, right? And when we do, it seems like it's weird to be doing that. I mean, in a sense, right? So, I love the fact that you're saying, why are we not taking, what we're doing in our daily lives and those user experiences and now bringing those into a commercial, industrialized setting? I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I love to see that happening because I think it also then allows from a labor perspective, a better experience too, in an overall work environment. As you think about, especially bringing in new generations who have been raised on, using digital technology for their entire lives. And, you bring them into something like you said is going to take, 20 clicks or it looks like a terminal or something to schedule something on. they're going to be like, what is this? Like, I don't want to use this. Like, this is not enjoyable at all. Right. So it should be easier and what we're used to in our everyday lives. I think it makes total sense to do that. So I mean, I guess talk to us a little bit about how the solution works from the perspective of the user. And I guess on both sides too, maybe it's on the broker side and then the receiver or shipper side.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about, what happens today from a shipper perspective, they have to manage their labor.
Right.
They have to manage their docks. They have, X number of trucks coming in. They have inventory. They have production processes. So it's very crucial for them to make sure that the trucks are there on time. They're loaded and unloaded on time, right? To reduce some of those costs, not to mention detention, right? If the trucks are waiting outside. So there's real acute problems around human labor cost, around their warehouse people, or detention costs, and to be the shipper of choice, right? On the broker side, it's equally very, very important because they are organizing trucks to come in either from a supplier or they're taking it to a customer. They got to find the right, carrier, the right price. And so if the schedule's all fluid and not clear, then what ends up happening is their salespeople become de facto schedulers. Right. And so they're playing this phone tag, this Russian roulette, right? Calling all the different parties to get the right time. So today, even though you have really fancy, track and trace or, visibility solutions, you may have really smart, freight rate, brokering solutions, load boards, but scheduling is still like this very, very manual, process. So we start with the shipper. That's who our primary customer has been. And what we do is we provide the ability for them to have a branded website where, it's their logo. And so all of the schedulers, suppliers, carriers, brokers, anybody who's looking for an appointment for either a delivery or a pickup goes into the website. And depending on which facility it is, it automatically gives them the right slots to pick up based on the PO, based on the type of product. Completely automated. The warehouse managers and the clerks can manage schedules, within the warehouse, within the docks, and when the trucks are coming in. So that's the one part of it, which is the appointment scheduling piece. The next part of it is when trucks arrive, they can text to check in. It's kind of like boarding a flight. There are no apps involved at all. It's all text-based. It's very, very simple. Drivers don't like apps. Yeah. So we don't want to burden them with that. So any kind of check-in, which involves the driver, involves the guard check person, all that can be done via the web, with texting. Yeah. And then there's this notion of, okay, is it a live load or a drop load, right? How much time is left on that? Where is the truck? And auto assign it to a certain dock. Hey, if it's a drop and hook, and I send it into the yard and pick the right trailer and go. It's all set around optimization. How can you get the truck in and out as fast and as safely as possible? You heard me say earlier, we're from Houston. We've done a lot of work with energy companies. Safety is paramount, first and foremost thing we think about. So we don't want drivers loitering around the parking lot, walking around, in the rain or snow, slipping and falling. So as much as possible, we want to make it all digital. So there's no paperwork needed or people to come out of their truck. And so that piece of the shippers, they love that. The ability to handle the appointment scheduling, the dock and the yard, all of that in one platform. But we don't just stop there. That's just the shipper side. Okay. On the broker side, when they are coming to, for example, pick up something from a shipper and take it to an end customer, what you now have is in a traditional dock scheduling environment, you just have that dock appointment in and out being handled, right? Our value proposition is we've evolved from dock scheduling to what we call unified scheduling. What does that mean? Okay. The value chain of a product doesn't start and stop at just the dock, right? We call unified scheduling, the value chain is floor to door, right? From a supplier bringing stuff into to a manufacturing plant to a distribution center, DC to a last mile warehouse to the end customer. All of that scheduling has to happen. Right. So the customer has visibility, the brand has visibility and say, okay, this was all done seamlessly. It was well managed. There's no detention, right? I know what's going on. Today, you don't have that. You have to go pull reports from 10 different systems to make that happen. But with us, we allow brokers to also be able to schedule the delivery with the end customer. How do we do that? That's what we're going to announce today, Kevin, is we're launching this new feature where you can have the customers do their delivery slot through email. The broker can just send an email to the customer that has kind of like Doodle.
Okay. Yeah.
Similar to Doodle. You get, these are the 10 slots, pick one, customer picks one, boom, that delivery slot is booked. Now the broker can book the carrier for the pickup of the ship.
Interesting.
Right? All in one platform.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think that makes it like so comprehensive to all those different points. And I think that makes so much sense. So, I mean, it's really interesting. Now, I'm curious what happens, when you select that slot and then something happens, the driver's running late or something like that. I mean, how does that now work within the platform and how do you make adjustments around that?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, great question. So where our customers want it, we can integrate with their visibility provider. And we can provide some ETAs, or use the visibility provider to give us that ETA so we can let the customer know. And if that ETA is good data, then we can recommend, hey, look, this truck was supposed to be at 8 a.m. It looks like it's going to get here at 4 p.m. You have a slot open at 4 p.m. Do you want me to automatically move this appointment? Right? And the customer just has to say, yep, do it. Yeah. Right? And we can message the broker back and say, hey, this appointment's been moved now to 4 p.m., everybody's happy, right? Yeah. And that's where some of the AI is coming into play. So we started to notice that, okay, in certain lanes, certain brokers, certain type of shippers, those trucks are like, 10% late, 20% late. Like, for example, we can kind of like anticipate that may happen. And so we're letting our customers know, hey, just letting you know, 70% of the time, this truck's not shown up when it said it would.
Yeah.
Right? Do you want to keep an opening for later in the day because it's a key supplier for you? Right? And so that's kind of where customers love those type of insights.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's so interesting because especially like if you're waiting on a truck and you're the receiver, right? And you're going to receive it, like you don't necessarily think about like what roads is this truck traveling on or anything like that. Like you're just like waiting for it to hit that door. So, I mean, that's pretty interesting. And I'm curious, do you have any examples of like where you're seeing that through the data collection and the AI where it's saying that like, oh, okay, this lane is, whatever you said, 70% late at the time. I mean, when you take that and kind of root cause that a little bit, I mean, is it because of the roads they're traveling on or what kind of things are driving that? I'm curious.
There's a lot of variables, it could be the weather, that's typically the number one variable. The truck broke down. Maybe it's the kind of operators that the carrier has been using. Maybe it's just the upstream in the value chain where the supplier, has a lot of trucks that leave late, right? Or they say they will leave at this time, but they don't actually leave at that time. But usually it's weather related or it's delays related, that we see. So certain times of the year, certain areas may have those types of issues.
Yeah.
So then we can warn the customer based on that.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, will it, like if it sees that, I mean, will it, and you try to say, like all the time, maybe this supplier, this broker is trying to book it at like 11 a.m., but every time like they don't show up until 1 p.m. or something like that. I mean, will the AI kind of go in and potentially tell you like, maybe you should book this later or suggest that? Yeah,
that would be the idea. The thing is sometimes for the shipper, it's not okay to have the truck come at 1 p.m. They really need the truck to be at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's kind of where we have an opportunity to go further upstream to the supplier and say, hey, listen, 70% of the time your truck runs late.
Yeah.
Right? You need to do a better job of scheduling the outbound.
Yeah.
Take into account so that your shipper customer is not unhappy. Right. So today, again, going back to the idea of unified scheduling, because scheduling was so focused on just the dock and the dock scheduling, dock management, that our approach is to go floor to door so we can provide insights to all parties in the value chain, not just the shipper, but also the supplier and the broker.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that makes total sense because it is such just like the supply chain in general, it's such like a ripple effect, right? Something gets loaded on the truck late now, like everything in front of that is going to be late at some point, right? If you look at, they're going to make one stop and then stop at another company, like they're going to be late there too. So it's just kind of like that never ending cycle in a sense, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to happen, right? There's just a lot of variables. What kills people is that they just don't know, or to handle exceptions requires so much human effort.
Yeah.
Right. So if you could do we have an exception dashboard, in our software. And so they can see exceptions and they can see the exceptions are happening over and over again. There's a certain supplier, a certain type of PO, right? This is the kind of insights we want to give the customer so they can understand what risk they're dealing with.
Yeah. I think that's such a smart thing. And because to be able to see those and focus in on those exceptions and even understand too, like if you're using the same carrier, same broker all the time, and they're like you said, 70% of the time, like they're late, like you want to know what's going on, right? And then you can have those conversations with them. So I'm curious, like as you're implementing this into customers, what are some of the big wins like that you can highlight that some customers have had in using Velostics?
One big one has been, we have a customer, they'll do a webinar with us here shortly. They were running a 3 shifts, 24/7 operation, and they had this idea of a first come first serve type of model, where whoever shows up first gets unloaded, type of deal. And they've gone from that to more of a scheduled model that we've got, and so they've cut an entire shift out.
Oh wow!
Right? So they're saving 30% in terms of costs, which is a huge deal, for a major shipper.
Yeah, absolutely. An entire shift like cut out. That's a big deal, definitely. So, that's pretty impressive. And I'm curious, how do you? Because if you look at an operation like that where you're saying it's first come first serve, and then you're going to scheduling, that's a big shift in the operational processes. So I'm curious, like how did you kind of manage that change? And I'm sure like at some level, I'm sure within the operation, there was probably some resistance to a new process. So I'm curious, like how did that go?
It's quite interesting that a lot of the folks already kind of know what the answer is. They just don't know how to execute on that. Right. And so, because we came from a software development background, the way we engineered the solution is for it to be very configurable. And so, the beginning part of a process is all about an interview, with the customer, in some cases, a site visit with the customer, just to kind of see what's happening at the ground level. Right. And then nothing's off the table, right? Just tell us, like, what do you think is going on? And what do you think the solution is?
Yeah.
So then we come to them with, hey, but what if, let me reframe the problem, right? You think you want a faster horse. Let me give you a car.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like, oh, I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's all this delight, right? There's this excitement. This is awesome. Like, and you guys got this done in 24 hours, kind of type of deal. So by configuring the solution in a way where we can look at the major exceptions, right? What are the biggest problems that are happening consistently, and solving for that through the solution is kind of where we see the biggest ROI really, really fast.
Interesting. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And I love the saying there that you just said. I had never heard that before. You want a faster horse, but I'll give you a car. I think that makes a lot of sense. And, it's really interesting to see, even these kind of, in the grand scheme of things, when we look at operations, we talk about some of the big spotlight tasks, which are like, the picking and the packing and things like that. But when you look at these in between things that are a necessity for those things to ultimately happen, like the scheduling of the arrival of whether it's a pickup or a drop off of that product, it is so crucial and so critical that you can find so much additional efficiency and savings in there when you have the right tools to be able to manage that properly. So really interesting to learn about this with you today. And I'm curious too, tell us a little bit about, you guys just closed a recent raise, I think, and tell us a little bit about what that means for kind of the future of Velostics and how you guys are going to grow from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we bootstrapped the business, and once we got, some traction in customers, we raised a round in 21 for $2.5 million. Nice. It really helped us, kind of find like a product market fit in the market. And when we've done that, now we have 161,000 carriers on our platform.
Oh, wow.
And we're accelerating the number of appointments per month at about a 50% growth rate, quarter over quarter. We're adding a lot of manufacturing plants and shippers to the platform. What we started to realize is that the problem statement around unified scheduling in our approach and our thesis, we had proven that from a product market fit perspective on the shipper side, but we were seeing like equally as big problems on the broker side, right? And so we said, okay, well, now that we have a lot of brokers coming to our platform and we're seeing a lot of data in terms of when and how they schedule appointments, we started talking to them about like, what are some of your pain points? What we found was that they spend about $15 per appointment in manual scheduling costs. Like that's the cost, right, of using their people to do these scheduling. And it doesn't matter if your schedulers are in the US or they're in Colombia or in Philippines or wherever. Yeah. It's still human cost, right?
Yeah.
So what we're doing here is we're cutting that by 80%.
Oh, wow.
Right. So in this industry where, freight is really suffering right now, it's a huge benefit for brokers to say, I can have my people focus on sales and not be focused on this manual admin task, right, of just scheduling.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where, our funding is going to go, is we're going to make the broker side just as easy and simple to use by leveraging email and three-way scheduling in a way that is really easy and delightful for people to use. We just really wedge ourselves between existing systems. We're not trying to replace any major systems. So it doesn't become a big IT nightmare. We're really focused on, let's do single sign-on, use email, we make it very simple. And the final thing I'll say is that one of the things that we're hearing from the market is they've been asking us about just white labeling our solution.
Yeah.
This is so cool. Like, we're building our own scheduling thing. Tell us, like, how can we work with you? And again, we want to make it very easy. So we said, look, for the amount of time and money you're going to spend in building something from scratch and throwing engineering, talent at it, that's not your core business. Your core business is, something different. We'll give it to you, white label it to you, and we'll make it very easy for you to buy. Try before you do any kind of long-term contract. And we're finding the industry say, awesome, like, this is great. If I can white label it and I can get it tomorrow for like, a fraction of the cost of building it myself, why wouldn't I use it?
Yeah.
So what I would say is that so far with that recent raise and kind of focusing on this white labeling on the broker side, we've been quite excited about the feedback that we're getting from the industry.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I think it's such a smart tool and simplifying that process, such a big win, I think, overall for all parties involved. So really interesting to learn about Velostics and the scheduling side of things and how you can really get some major gains and benefits from optimizing that with the platform. So really appreciate you coming on and talking to me about this. If people are interested in learning more about Velostics, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, they should go to the website, Velostics.com. Again, that's Velostics.com. It's kind of like combining velocity and logistics into one word. That's a great way for them to reach out.
All right, great. And we'll definitely put that website and information at thenewwarehouse.com as well, so people can easily find it. So Gaurav, thank you so much for coming on the show today and telling us all about Velostics.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.